This is the DRF Players Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the DRF Players Podcast. This is the December 19th, 2017 edition, show 294. I'm Peter Thomas Fornatal, back with you, not in the Brooklyn bunker, but upstairs in our apartment here in Park Slope, Brooklyn, looking at the Christmas tree. We just pre-recorded a show that's going to air a week from now. Listener Q&A with Mike Maloney. I suggest everybody check it out. Some amazing stuff in there, but nothing better than the rope story. You'll have to wait to hear it. One man who did just hear the rope story, and he's heard many interesting stories over the years from Mike Maloney. He's the co-host of this radio program. He's from the planet Texas. He is the people's champion. Jonathan Kinchin, what's up?
What's going on? We gotta, you know what I always forget? We gotta get the underage driver Churchill Downs story. You've heard that one, haven't you?
Oh, of course. Well, that's in the book.
Oh,
that
is okay.
Yeah, that's in the book. You seem a little, for a guy who's read the book, JK, I must admit, you seem a little unfamiliar with the content. If you're not reading this thing, who is?
No, I couldn't remember when the story. There's so many stories in the book, and I've heard so many live stories. I can't remember which ones where I heard them or read them. You know what I mean? And I read the book like 7 months ago.
To be fair, you also you were one of the many people who read the book in bits and pieces. The book, of course, Betting with an Edge, Mike Maloney's new book. If you're listening to this live, actually, and you're looking for a last-minute holiday gift for the degenerate in your life, if you pretty much immediately go ahead and contact me at Looms Boldly on Twitter or podcast@drf.com. I could still get one that could appear under your holiday tree. But JK, you were kind enough to read a lot of early excerpts, so I do understand you read the book all out of order. But I think you should reread the whole thing just so you're familiar with what's in the final version, man.
No, absolutely. I'm waiting for my signed copy, for crying out loud.
You haven't gotten that yet? All your trips to Lexington?
No, but I'm going to see. I think I'm going to see Mike on Thursday. So maybe I'll send him a note in the morning that I'll grab it from the office, or maybe he's got him in the office.
Get that taken care of, and then you can bring it to me. I will say, though, just to tease the book a little more, my favorite editor of the project, Sean Borman, who worked with Mike for years, I thought, who better than Sean to look stuff over and be able to comment about things that were included or not included. And Sean's editorial remark to me, I'm not going to say what it is, but I'm just going to give you the basics. He read over some of the betting construction, betting strategy stuff, and said to me, I can't believe he didn't tell you about the tuck rule. And I'm thinking, tuck rule. I watched that game. Actually, I watched that game, and you know where I watched that game? The 2002, I think it was AFC Championship, no, AFC Divisional Playoff game, New England and at the time, Oakland Raiders. I think they were in Oakland then. I watched that at the Pacific Coast Grill, JK, out in San Diego, a place where you and I had the pleasure to go this Breeders' Cup.
It's a good spot.
Not bad at all. We watched football again this time, but it was nothing as memorable as the tuck rule game. But anyway, it turns out that Mike Maloney's tuck rule has nothing to do with John Gruden or Tom Brady or any of or Sebastian Janikowski or any of those characters. You're going to have to read Betting with an Edge to find out what it is. JK, here we are. We are going to be doing a show today, the 19th. We're going to come back on Friday, and we're going to do a regular podcast where we do a bit of our usual thing and preview some races from Santa Anita. We're also going to do a special handicapping session with Craig Milkowski on Friday, where we go over this newest exciting development in the partnership between Daily Racing Form and Timeform US, where you're going to have the option of having the Timeform US pace figures, and I believe even color-coded, embedded in the formulator PPs. That's happening this week. What are your general thoughts on that idea?
That's phenomenal. Our friend Nick Tamaro, they're blue and red. If it's blue, slow, red, fast. He circles the fractions with red or blue pins. I'm imagining this might save him time. However, he is very eccentric about his about his PPs. I'm not sure he'll go for any change, but no, I think it's a huge development, and should be a really strong tool for a lot of people.
Yes, it's going to be fun to talk to Craig about it. So look forward to that. You'll be seeing some banners on the DRF website. You can sign up and join us for that and join us for the show. And it looks like if everything goes right, we might just have 2 shows next week. We're definitely going to have a show on Boxing Day, the 26th, which is the Mike interview, basically part 2 of the one from the other week, which we just recorded. What did you think of that, Mike? Mike, what did you think of Mike, JK?
Oh, it was phenomenal. It's always phenomenal, though. It's one of the things I didn't get to say was one of the things I think that's the best thing about Mike, and it's the same reason that I feel the same way I feel about Paul and Duke Matisse, is as much knowledge as they have, as accomplished as they are, and as much of a right as they have to be that I know it all guy at the racetrack. None of them are that way. And I really do appreciate that. And unfortunately, our game is full of people that think they have all the answers, right? It's full of a bunch of guys who don't have nearly the credentials that those 3 guys have. However, they bang on their chest as if they're the smartest people in the room. And I find people like that to be extremely annoying. And I find people like Mike, Paul, and Duke to be extremely refreshing and to make me feel excited to be a part of this game, to know that there's people that are at the pinnacle that still are interested in learning and still don't act as if they have all the answers. And I think Mike's the epitome of that. And so anytime we have an opportunity to talk to him, I think it's rewarding. I think it's a lot of fun. And I think that people, it's why they gravitate so much to the opportunities that we have when we get to talk to those guys.
I am so glad you mentioned that. I first sort of fell in with friends who were professional bettors, not here, but over in England in the actually more like the early 2000s. I've told the story before on this show about going to Cheltenham for the first time and wandering. I was told there was a double secret shortcut to get from the course up to the very famous pub, the Plough in Pressbury. Somehow got lost and ended up trapped in a field with cows, and wandered back to the path and ran into the giant, who very kindly directed me to the pub because that's where he was going too. And through the giant became friends with a group, including folks still friends with to this day. Rob Dove, one of the top 10 pro punters in the UK today, met him through the giant, the accumulator, all these folks, and internet message boards at the time. And back then it was MSN used to have the chat, and we do these group chats during the races and just sort of bandy back and forth. And it was amazing at first being a part of it and watching this crew of people. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say I probably understood about 40% of it at first, between the slang, the emojis, though I don't think we called them emojis back then, but that's what they were, and the various inside jokes. Realizing it took me, I think, 3 months to realize whenever somebody sent around an emoji of a jack-o'-lantern that meant trainer Paul Nichols. But before that, it was just a mystery to me. But anyway, falling in with this group of professional players, I learned early on, and then meeting other people, some of whom were pros and some of whom were aficionados, that one way to tell the difference was that the pro players tended to play up their losses and downplay their winnings. I think a result of just how humbling the game can be. And the guy who's out there saying, oh, check this out, this is one of the greatest performances in the history of contests, or the guy who says, they can't, no one else can beat me, only I can beat me. Characters who say things like that, they're typically speaking themselves into boldness because they're hiding something, whatever it may be.
If you feel the need to bang on your chest at the top of the mountain that you're the smartest person in the room, you're typically not. And I think we have a person in prominence in this country who I remember an interview recently saying, I'm very smart. I'm very, very educated. Like, smart people don't say that.
Bigly educated, Jonathan?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and congratulations for a contest performance. Those guys, and whoever you want those guys to be. Couldn't warm up a guy like Mike Maloney on a day-to-day basis, a guy like Paul Matisse on a day-to-day basis. It's just I don't know a lot of things for sure, but I do know that for sure.
No, and I put my money where my mouth is on that one. If somebody were to design a contest that spanned the year, didn't just allow you to cherry pick playing, say, one or two races on over two of racing's biggest days, but where you had to get money in and out through 52 weeks a year, put up any amount on a team that included Mike Maloney and Paul Matisse and Sean Borman over any contest players you could name.
I completely agree. I've actually envisioned this contest before, but can't quite figure it out. But yeah. But I mean, I think that's to circle back around. That's the great part about having Mike on, is when you can have someone who's humble enough to share their stories and their experiences and do it in a way where it's not condescending or talking down to you. I think that's always a great opportunity, whatever it is that you do, right? I mean, like whatever it is that you're interested in, I think people gravitate to people that are like that are willing to share, but are also sharing, not to promote themselves, but sharing because they enjoy the conversation. And Mike's always made me feel that way when I've been around him. I'll never forget the first time I was sitting around with Mike, and even Paul and Duke. I've sat around those guys in awe, and I become absolutely flabbergasted when they look at me and say, like, well, JK, who do you like in the fifth? Well, why are you asking me? You're the what? Really? Like that's what's great about those guys, And I choose not to be too philosophical, but I choose to be around people that make me better and that engage and listen, rather than people that just tell me why they're so great. I don't want to be around people like that. And
Racing's, and part, someone might say listening to this, well, if they're so smart, why are they risking, giving away their secrets or whatever? And I want you to hear your answer to that, JK. But to me, the idea is that racing is too complicated. It doesn't break down to a simple formula. It's not like there are some edges that are so fundamental they can be easily explained. For example, you want to jump in, or shall I finish this up?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think of the classic old school Roxy Roxborough over under angle at Wrigley Field. If your edge is as simple as the wind is blowing out, bet over, the wind is blowing in, bet under, you can't talk about that edge without giving it away. But the edge in racing is, well, okay, you're willing to work these 60 hours a week and put together this, sophisticated way of gathering and disseminating this information. Nobody can do it. And it's just ridiculous that there are people in this game, especially on the tournament side of things, that you could ask them who they like in a race, and they're going to defer saying, oh, well, I can't tell you my secrets, or, oh, I consider that proprietary. It's just an absurd notion.
Yeah, and first of all, just to be completely blunt, Paul doesn't give all of his secrets away. I mean, there's a lot of things that Paul does that he doesn't share everything. He is open about a lot of things, surprisingly so, open about more things I think some people might think he would be open about. But they're very cautious of some of the edges that they believe they have in the game, because they're still young guys that are fully attacking the game. I think the world is very lucky that Mike Maloney is a nice man, and two, that he wrote this book. I think a major motivator of him writing this book was a tribute into honoring his father, and with doing so, Mike wanted to express some of the great things he learned along the way, and he wasn't going to withhold or be cheeky with doing that, and so I think that's why I think this book is so special, because there's a lot of things in there that Mike did keep private for a really long time. When Mike was in the heat of the battle, not that he's not in the heat of the battle anymore, but when he was really coming up and getting out, there's a lot of these things that he did keep private. But like you said before, and I joked with you before, like, damn, Pete, this book is good. I wish you wouldn't release it. It's got some good stuff. But like you said, like, the part of it is like, it's still, you still would have to put in 60 to 75 hours a week to even apply what he's talking about. It will make you a more aware player at a base level, but to fully apply it in a way where you take away his edge. Yeah. I mean, you're not. There's only going to be 5 people that do that, and so.
But I think there's tons of stuff that are take-offable and applicable that are just going to make you a better player. I think that if you want to talk about this is going to be your only living, it's going to take, a couple of years of training and then that level of work to get you there. But that doesn't mean it can't just help. And somebody who just bets on the big days is still going to pick up things along the way. And there's a lot of things just about the general approach. And of course, the mental side, money management stuff is just invaluable. But anyway, I don't want to talk about the book the whole show, but I am glad I didn't even really plan on talking about it this much, but the conversation just came organically. So, hey, we'll go with it. Once again, if you're interested, if you're looking at it for a holiday gift, you better get me right away, because even priority mail isn't going to do it after about tomorrow. So jump on it at Looms Boldly, podcast@drf.com, or just go ahead and order from the DRF store. Not sure what the shipping time is on there, but you can check. I hear it's selling well, and that's very gratifying, and the response has been tremendous. And obviously, we're going to continue to have Mike on, maybe not to talk only about the book, but just as a regular rotation guest. He gave me a tremendous compliment. This is so nice. I don't know that he'd want me saying it on air, but I'm just going to take the risk. He told me the other day, JK, the problem is when I'm a guest on the podcast, then I don't have it to listen to when I'm in my car. I don't want to listen to myself.
Listening back can be a little bit awkward, but yeah, no, for sure. And Pete, this is an aside, but I'm curious, because I think Scott Calder told me you could do this. If you have, and our buddies at DRF tournaments might not like this, but if you have credits in your tournament account, you can use them to buy things from the store, right?
Oh, I think you might be able to. That's a great question that I don't know. And I don't think they'd mind. The money's getting, it's going to a DRF cause. I don't. If they let you do that, if they let you do that, they want you to do that. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I don't feel bad sending someone on a wild goose chase if it doesn't work. It's not like it's going to take you forever to figure it out. But I think it's an option. I think I heard that it was an option. So if you have you got some breakage from an event you played in, you got $22 sitting in there, or $34 or $50 or whatever it is, it's an option of looking at a way to pick that up.
Since you mentioned DRF tournaments, it's kind of cool right now. It's truly a something for everyone environment. There are 3 big events that there's qualifying going on for. One, a big live bankroll tournament, the Pegasus World Cup Betting Challenge, $12,000, but it's no entry fee. That's all money that goes to bet. There are rebates associated with it. You can get all the details on the Gulfstream website. I've written about it as well on drf.com. It's a 3-level qualifying process on DRF tournaments right now. The first 2 levels are 1 in 5. So the best ratios you're going to find anywhere. Definitely something players should be looking at. If you're not a live bankroll fan and you want the big Vegas contest experience, well, we've got that too. Horse Player World Series qualifying going on. We've sent players each of the last couple of weeks to the Horse Player World Series. Go on to DRF tournaments and check that out. Very straightforward. I think the one-day qualifier is 94, and you feed in for 11 for that one. You got something on the Horse Player World Series, JK?
Yeah, I don't think we've ever really talked about it on here very much, because it's never really been a partner thing, and I like that tournament. It's fun. It's different. It's different, but we always talk about the NHC being kind of big horse players convention. I think that this one's very similar. My memories from the Horse Player World Series are a lot of like sitting around the bar area talking racing, and big conference rooms full of horse players, and college basketball, I believe, is typically going on at the time. So that's always kind of fun to get involved in the sports book, and it's a fun contest. So if you've never played in that before and you kind of want that big Vegas experience and you haven't quite qualified for the NHC, it's another option to get involved and to get out there, and it's a fun tournament for sure.
And you can just buy into that, but hey, why buy in when you can win your way in on DRF tournaments? You think you might play in it this year? Have you looked at your travel schedule at all come March?
I think March is going to be kind of tricky for us. I'm going to be. I think Santa Anita and Gulfstream have their March 10th tournament. Keeneland has their tournament the second weekend in April. And there's rumors around that there could be a pretty cool contest coming up at some point in March as well. So I want to be able to participate in as many of those as I can. And so we'll see what happens. But if it works out, I'll definitely try to get there.
You're a definite maybe, it sounds like. Well, for me, it's one of those contests I've never been to, the Horseplayer World Series. So one of these years, I want to get there. If not this year, it'll be soon. And then the third contest, of course, World Championship of Handicapping. Hey, did you see who won his second seat to the WCH last weekend?
Well, I wasn't playing, so it definitely wasn't our friend in green and gold. But who was it?
Pete Tressens.
Oh,
best dressed man at the track.
Another well-dressed man, yeah.
So it was excellent to see. It was excellent to see him. Elliot Honecker, who you referenced, another one of the players who has two. Pete Tressens will now have two. I had a lot of fun catching up with him about his win, and you can read that on DRF.com now. He was very generous with his information about the horses he picked and why he picked them. And I know, he always very, very kind when it comes to his praise of the show and my work. Always love to have Pete around, even though he makes us look bad by dressing so nicely. We need to get Steve Bick in the mix more to at least, counterbalance it some.
Pete's always very nice to me, but every time he sees me, he looks me up and down and figure out what the hell I'm doing with my outfit.
You do. All right. Since you brought it up, often very well appointed shoes, love the shoes, cool shorts or pants. What's with the t-shirts, man?
I just hate wearing collared shirts. I really hate wearing collared shirts. They make my neck. They just annoy me. I like to be comfortable, and I've gotten this complaint from others.
Am I the first male who's given you the complaint?
Yes. Yes, I think so.
All right. Well, anyway, there you go. Perhaps that's something for you to work on in 2018. And speaking of working on things in 2018, we promised we were going to do this. We do want to get some listener buy-in, and maybe on Twitter we can have a nice conversation about New Year's handicapping / horse player New Year's resolutions. Feel free to tag us at Looms Boldly here, at UT Big Hair there, and we'll continue this conversation. We want to hear what you guys are thinking. But JK and I have spent some time thinking about New Year's resolutions. It relates to this idea, and we talk about it on the 1226 show, so we won't go into too much depth here. But it's basically the idea that being a horse player, it's kind of like a shark. If you're not constantly moving forward, you're dead. And you need to keep incorporating things into your game if you want to not only thrive, but even survive. So with that in mind, JK, why don't you start? I've got a few. I hope you have a few. Horse player resolutions for 2018.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about on the show we just recorded that's going to be going on the 26th, but I want to elaborate on it a little bit, is that because I've gotten to be a little bit more. I've taken my trip notes a little bit more serious. I've caught myself being watching less replays, and I want to kind of get back to that a little bit. Obviously, I want to take advantage of the fact that my trip note work will put me in a better position, but I still do think there's a place to kind of review what you've got in your trip note. Maybe some other information has come up since then. Maybe you found out that changed or this changed, or a horse that was in that race came back and ran huge and whatever it might be. I just think that it kind of can put you back into a little bit better perspective than just trusting your trip note. Now, I take pride in my trip notes, but at the same time, I think that I want to get a little bit more in depth. I want to slow down a little bit. I've gotten much quicker. I've been much quicker of a handicapper than I used to. It used to take me an hour to do a race, or at least it felt like an hour. And now I've cut that down to like 10 minutes. And I don't feel like I'm being reckless, but I do want to slow down a bit. So my goal is this year is just to slow down a bit more, take a little bit more time.
Let's talk about this in more detail, even JK. What's the difference between a race where you're going to see your trip note come up in your program like Formulator, and you're going to stick with that, and where is it that you're going to want to go back and watch that replay? What's the difference between those two situations?
Well, I think one of the things is when you have like a number of horses coming out of the same race, I think it's always worth it. The risk reward there, the economies of scale is like, there's 4 horses that are present in the 7th race today at Aqueduct, and those 4 horses are coming out of a race that happened on March 27th. Just go ahead and watch that race again. You're going to get a ton of information on those 4. And usually what happens in that situation is there's one horse that absolutely will not win based on watching that replay and seeing the situation that unfolded, whether it's the horse that finished best of the 4, but the other 3 had crazy trips, but they only beat that horse by this much. Like you can really get some great clues when you can watch that race in which not a majority, but more than one participant that is running today ran in. So that's one of the races that I want to watch for sure. And then I think that the races in which you have the trip note, steadied, trouble stretch, blah, blah, blah. I think you don't maybe need to watch that one again, but you can watch some other ones. And one of the things that I've also done, what I mean by other ones is like, if I'm betting a race at Aqueduct and I have trip notes for pretty much every horse that raced at Aqueduct the time before, but then there's a horse that shipped in from Parks, the lazy part of me does not watch that Parks replay.
Right.
Because I feel confident that I have a good enough grasp on the other 7 horses in the race that I don't need to fully understand that horse at Parks. And I think that's wrong and it's lazy. And I want to do better in that regard.
I love that point you made about when you watch the race with the common horses, how it's pretty rare that you come away without at least the opinion, well, the 3's definitely going to do better than the 4 based on the setup there. Another reason why, just a mistake I sometimes make with trip notes when I'm not careful. If I'm relying on notes I make in real time, a lot of times they need to be revisited later when I have a much clearer understanding of what the bias and or pace situation were in that race. Because there's a lot of subtle trip things, but like in my reckoning of what's important in a race, I think that like the bias issues and pace issues especially are more primary there's more signal, especially in the pace information for me, than there is in like a secondary trip. So if I catch something live and make some big note about it, but then later I realize, well, yeah, the horse was stopped and closed really well, but that's because it was a really fast pace and the race was falling apart. That horse was actually, the trouble's real, but the horse was still flattered. I don't want to fall in love with the trouble and make that horse a definite bet back. I want to be able to consider it more holistically. And I think those are situations where I might want to look back at a trip note I made, especially if I was doing the trip note in real time. If it turns out where it's a race that had somehow more of an extreme pace or bias situation. Do you agree with that concept?
Yeah, absolutely. And conversely, I would invite someone who's an hour handicapper to cut back, and I'm not one of those like, what's the
think long, you think wrong.
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe in that, but I do believe that there's a certain point of diminishing return, right? It's like if you're spending an hour on handicapping one race in the pick 4 sequence, and you're taking you 4 hours to handicap the pick four, then what I would like for you to do or suggest is spend 3 hours and 30 minutes handicapping the pick four and spend 30 minutes constructing your pick four bet. You know what I mean? Like, just try to rework your timing and find a way to be more precise, you know, and find a way to, or maybe you determine when you, and see what the great part about it is spending that 30 minutes trying to figure out how to bet it. You might say to yourself, like, I shouldn't even be playing this pick four. What I should be doing is I should play two doubles. That's what I should do. Or I should play the double into the pick four because I don't really love the third leg. So why even jack with that? Like, play the pick three from the 6th to the 8th rather than playing the pick four that starts in the 7th and I don't like the 9th. You know, really spend time looking at your betting construction and less time trying to be the smartest guy in the handicapping room. I think that there's a different allocation of time that could be beneficial.
Well, I think that's going to be a resolution that we hear from a lot of players is spend more time on bet construction generally. See it time and time again, 60 minutes on the race, bet constructed in the time it takes to walk from the table at the simulcast center to the window. And that's just, you cannot win at the modern game doing that. I don't believe.
No, I look at it like building a house, right? It's like if you're building a house from scratch and you take all this time shopping online for flooring and materials and your appliances and what your paint colors and you know, what kind of plumbing you're going to use, the copper wiring or non-copper wiring, PVC or whatever, and then you decide in 5 minutes like the building plan. Whoa, wait a second. You spent 3 months planning out all the materials you're going to use, but then you spent 5 minutes deciding how you're going to build it. The outcome's not going to be good there. The picking the materials and constructing the bet should be just as important as one another. And unfortunately, I don't think we do that in this game very often. I think that the nature of the game has been picking winners and picking horses that we don't realize, and it's picking carpet and picking, you know, paint colors. We're not thinking about the actual process of building it.
Did you see this amazing thing that I think relates to this conversation, JK, and I think a lot of people could learn from? Chris Larmy retweeted it. It comes from the Pinnacle sports betting website, and it's an article called The Green Lumber Fallacy. Did you see the article, or do you know what the green lumber fallacy is?
I don't know what it is, but like the 30-second side note is like Pinnacle was like, when I was in college, the first site we were betting on. And we thought that if we just did a bunch of $5 16 parlays, we'd eventually hit one of them. So you know how that ended up.
That's amazing. I'll just read a little piece from this now. I don't think they'll mind. The term green lumber fallacy was coined by Nassim Nicholas Taleb in his excellent book, Anti-Fragile, where he outlined a similar situation. A star Swiss franc trader whose inability to locate Switzerland on the map didn't hinder his ability to make money trading its currency. This ties back into the main idea of the green lumber fallacy, where one of the most successful traders to ever buy and sell green lumber, which just means freshly cut wood, actually had no idea what he was trading, spent his entire career trading green lumber, believing it was wood painted green, not newly cut trees. His ignorance of the product had no impact on his ability to make money trading it. And that, to me, what I think it ties into in racing, it's not precise. Obviously, the handicapping part of the equation is extremely important. But the fact is that just like in the example of the Swiss franc guy who couldn't find Switzerland on the map and the green lumber guy, not knowing that much about the fundamental of the product doesn't change your ability to use certain ideas to make money trading it. And when we bet horses, we're essentially trading. We're dealing. The parimutuel market is a market like a currency market or like any market, really. It's a bit more unforgiving in that it's zero sum and that we deal with some very high costs in terms of takeout. But the lesson for me here is just to spend more time on that piece of the equation, the piece where you're actually converting opinion into wager, into positions in the marketplace. And, again, I'm not saying the specialist knowledge isn't important, but you need to figure out where the signal is in that specialist importance. It's not in being able to recite the winner of the Carter handicap for the last 20 years. I'll tell you that much. It's finding the signal that you need to find on the handicapping side and converting it into an opinion for wagering. What do you think of that whole idea of the green lumber fallacy?
No, I think it's accurate. I think the piece you're talking about, I didn't read it, but I saw it. It was referring more to sports, right? Which I think, unlike racing, there's a lot more people that think they're experts in sports because they watch ESPN. They know that LeBron is averaging a triple-double. They know that Steph Curry is shooting 98% from the free throw line, and they know that the Eagles are really good in pass protection. So they think they've got it figured out. But the problem is not understanding who's going to win the race, because it's sports, right? So still random things happen. You have to position yourself from an equity standpoint where you can withstand the times you're wrong and you make money the times that you are right. And I think that the comparison to the stock market is really pretty accurate. In fact, well, one of our good friends, I won't say his name, his wife is a professional in her arena. And when they're at certain functions where there's these informal and kind of, not much substance conversations going on, and people ask what her husband does, and instead of going down the rabbit hole and being judged in a conversation that doesn't really matter, she just says he's a high risk investor. Which great. Is not a lie. No, it's what he is. And so when I'm having conversations with people, I usually call it my taxi cab conversations or my Uber conversations, when the Uber driver says, well, what do you do? So I do real estate, and then I'm like a semi-professional horse player. I don't eat off of my gambling, but my tax returns have to have mention of it. So what I always tell them is it's really like the stock market. When you see a stock, you see Apple, and you think it's undervalued, you buy it. And when you think it's overvalued, you sell it. And that's kind of what we do in racing. It's just different. They're four-legged animals, and they're running in a circle. And so I think that you have to identify value and then place your dollar in situations in which you are getting value. And that whole idea has nothing to do with the fact that Apple is the most successful, electronics company in the world, or that Netflix is growing, or that Google has 7 products with 1 billion users a day. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that Irad is going to be loose on the 7 and he's going to win. Everyone knows that, right? But how do you make money off of that when the public knows it too? And that's kind of what the game is. And that's why things like, Mike's talking about betting strategy and ticket construction is so important. Why Ticket Maker is such a valuable tool. Because it's not about just identifying the winner. It's getting yourself in the right position from an equity and a value standpoint.
The article calls it acknowledging and applying risk. I just call it managing risk. It's a game at the end of the day that comes down to basically managing risk. And to your point about when everybody knows everything, trying to figure out and this gets back in very specifically to the resolution idea. And I can't answer this for you. And if I come up with a good answer to it, I'm probably not going to give it away first thing on the podcast until I figure out, how much equity's in it and a little bit more about the specifics. But where's the new idea? Ticketmaker is a great example. I suggest everybody use it. I think it's great. But enough people are constructing tickets that way, and even in more sophisticated ways, that if you think you're going to get an edge now on that alone, I think you're mistaken. It's going to help. If you're doing nothing, it's going to help. If you're betting caveman tickets, it's going to help a lot. But the next question is, how can we take Ticketmaker and do something new with it? Or how can we find the next Ticketmaker? What's happening next? You have to think in terms of the future. Every time new bets come in, I think it's one of the reasons why new bets are often popular, and certainly why I'm attracted to them. New bet means new opportunity to apply critical thinking to an issue and come up with an edge, because after a while it gets solved, and a little bit like math problems. It's like sometimes these things get solved, and sometimes there might be an overcorrection and a way to go back in, but sometimes the problem gets solved and the pools just get so efficient that, good luck finding an edge there. Good luck finding an edge in a 50-cent pick four pool at this point. It can be done, but you really have to, for me, limit the use of those pools to times when your handicapping opinion is just extraordinary. Very hard to get an edge solely in betting it. What do you think of these ideas? Have I taken it too far, or are you with me?
No, I'm with you 100%. I think that's definitely the direction that people need to go is revolutionizing what it is that they're doing and always trying to find a better way to do it. And a lot of times when you do that, you'll end up barking up the wrong tree, right? You'll think you have this idea of a way to solve something, but really in the process you'll just understand it better, and it'll help you with your next idea. It'll help you with your I remember a project that I did a long time ago, which was like putting in all of the Trackus numbers for certain distances, like the winning distance that was traveled, and then getting an average of the winning distance that was run, so that if a horse traveled further than that, then I could use that as for comparison purposes. And
that's cool.
And it became like just a tedious thing that like never really like led to a ton, but the process of it was very educational. Like just putting me in the mindset of ground loss and why it was not important, and it still was informative, and it like Mike said in our conversation earlier, a lot of the things he does, they might not be as useful as on the surface as they would appear to be, but they keep him in tune to what's going on, and there's other rewards for it.
Research and development projects, I emphasize their importance, especially this time of year. I mean, for me, this year I went old school. Last year I played all the way through. This year I haven't done much, a few bets here and there from Breeders' Cup, and then look to pick back up the Santa Anita starting 1 week from today. But in that time, it's the perfect time to analyze and do this kind of soul-searching work, aided hopefully for folks by being able to go back and look at their numbers, looking at records and seeing where they did well, and then being able to refocus and come up with a plan for 2018. All right, we've gotten one of your resolutions. We went on then a theoretical betting resolution, which I think probably applies to both of us in some way. Let me talk about, I have two, JK, and maybe you can help me with this. So my first resolution is I want to focus, if not entirely, largely my play in 2018 on races that are of interest to breeders. And there's a couple of reasons I want to do that. I'll before you give your opinion on this, because we haven't really talked about this idea much offline, I just want to explain a little bit about it. Part of it is that the more I learn about the breeding business, the more interested I am in it. It seems like a lot of the people I'm around at Saratoga, these could be interesting conversations to have, and I have access to a lot of people to potentially learn a lot more about the breeding industry and the ways that it can inform how and why horses end up in certain spots, for example. But I think the simpler part of it is, I think by focusing on the races of interest to breeders, I'd be focusing on the best races and having to do less cynical guesswork about horses and how much of their ability is still there when they're dropping in class and things like this. It feels like as time has gone on, class drops that used to be super negative and allow you to eliminate favorites, these days, very often, those horses are still winning. The economics of the game make it make sense. That's not what's fun about racing to me. I'd much rather spend my time looking at maiden special weights and allowances and stakes races and things that will help me along the way all year long already start to be thinking about an event like the Breeders' Cup, where I think the best opportunities in the game still lie. And I think it'll cut down the amount of work that I have to do and increase my enjoyment and fun of the game. And looking at my records, I see that these are the best bets I've made in the last 2 years. They're not the bias play on the 20,000 claimer. They're bets on horses that I've identified early, appearing in stakes races and things of that like. And I believe that I can find more of those plays, cut down my overall work, and increase my enjoyment of the game by focusing on races that are of interest to breeders. What do you think?
I like it. I guess my question is maiden special weight races, obviously, and then stakes races. Do allowance races matter to breeders? I don't know for that's what I'm asking.
Well, I think that they do. I mean, just because they're a step, obviously maidens do and stakes do, and that's the step in between. So I was thinking, and they just don't run many. They don't run many straight allowance races. You know what I mean? So I'm probably not as interested in a N2L with a bunch of 1 for 17 horses, but definitely as a way. And I know a lot of trainers these days, they don't want to necessarily, quote unquote, waste a race in an allowance race when they can go straight to a stake. But I can think of plenty of allowance races at Saratoga. Think about this. This is a perfect example. Allowance races at Saratoga where you have homebred horses from big operations that have wanted to go long the whole time. The horses haven't had the opportunity to run long much. So they've maybe been running shorter than their best. The form doesn't look that good. And then you see that, the Phipps homebred on the dirt going long at Saratoga or Juddmonte. And these horses, they tend to outrun their odds. And it's not an angle that I see a lot of people on. If I'm just sort of in my grindy rhythm doing what I do, I'll miss that. If I'm focusing on these kind of races, I think I'll notice that. And I'll hit that Phipps horse that busted me out of the pick 4 at Saratoga this year because I wasn't paying enough attention.
Yeah, this is an interesting point that I think I heard it first from Jack Jenkins when he was talking about some of his trip work as a guy who isn't playing full time. Instead of tripping every race that takes place at a racetrack, he said he was going to only trip stakes and maiden special weight race.
Interesting. Same idea, really.
Yeah, cut your workload. I don't know what 2/3 probably.
More probably. I mean, think about even a meet like Saratoga these days, how much claiming. I guess it also depends if you're going to do the state breds too. But if you were taking the state breds out and taking the claimers out, you got what, 1 to 3 races a day most days at Saratoga.
Yeah, absolutely, and it still could lead you to opportunities with maiden special weight horses dropping in for 40 and 50. So it's not like
absolutely.
You're going to be completely
once they're on
situations like that.
100% right. I should point that out. Once they're on my watch list, I'm going to be betting them where they come back. But it's just a question of where to focus the energy. So that's one idea I have. The other idea I have, it's kind of funny because it's almost the exact opposite. But I think it might be time for me to delve back in. I did this, more than 10 years ago. I haven't made my own speed figures in more than a decade. And I think it might be time to mess around again. Starting this winter, getting back in, picking a circuit that's not a major circuit and doing figures just to get in tune and just to go through the process again and see what it teaches me about what I see on the track and about my own handicapping. It's just been too long, and I think I'm going to give it a whirl. I say the opposite because the other idea is one to save time. This is one that'll cause time, but I'm not even necessarily talking about whatever the circuit is, betting it every day so much as just having the experience of making the numbers and getting in there. A track like Tampa Bay, maybe, that I know a lot of people like. What do you think of that idea?
No, I dig it. I think mathematically, I would rather, jump out the window, but I get it.
I don't think it's as hard as you think it is once you get started.
No, I know. I don't think it's. I do think it's a daunting task, but I do agree. I don't think it's impossible.
It's something to try, and if it works, if it's helpful, it'll stay in the repertoire, and if it's not, it won't. But it's something that I want. I think when thinking about potential resolutions, it's like, what's the point of making a resolution that's not going to push you at all? You know what I mean? Like, I could make a resolution to, walk 3 miles a day or something. That's easy. It's hard to make a resolution to, do another half marathon or something that's going to push me, take me out of my comfort zone. The speed figure one, the breeder's interest one, I think it's smart. I think mentally it will help me and improve me by saying it out loud, saying it on the show, and trying to stick to it. But it won't really push me the way that the figure making one will. That'll push me, take me out of my comfort zone. In life, too often we stick to, comfort is overrated. It's really important. But like, I've made a lot of decisions in my life that promoted my own comfort in the moment instead of like jumping through hoops of fire to go through the logistics so I could go to that concert or play or thing that I knew was going to be awesome. And then the band broke up or, the play closed or whatever. And that opportunity can be gone forever. And it's like, yeah, I had that really nice night sitting on the couch having a whiskey, but like I can do that every night. And it's not that often I can go, see the White Stripes play live or whatever it is. Just trying to think of some examples of opportunities I've missed in life for being lazy. And I think a lot of them revolve around music and theater more than sports. The sports experience so good right from the couch these days. But anyway, you get where I'm going with this. And I think that's something to think about in your resolutions, whether they relate to horse racing or just life in general. As don't be afraid to, don't do anything stupid, but don't be afraid to push yourself and take yourself out of the comfort zone a little bit. You can just learn so much about yourself as a person and just enrich your experience of life by doing so. A little philosophy on the DRF podcast today, JK.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, PTF.
You got any others, or we have other stuff to do on the show, but I don't want to short you if you had another resolution you wanted to mention.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about it that hard, this idea, but I know I want to do something different. I want to do something different about my pocket situation at the racetrack. My pockets are a disaster at the racetrack. Like what? I need to work out a plan where one pocket is for live tickets, one pocket is for dead tickets, one pocket is for cash and vouchers, or some system in which I don't have that moment of panic where I can't figure out where my ticket is. I got to do a better job of that.
I'll never forget the Faro 2015 pick six that wasn't. At some point during that sequence, I had so many tickets and so much cash from the different investors and for the money I was betting. I at some point misplaced the ticket, and I remember you going through this random pile of what I thought were discarded tickets and coming up with at the time what was going to be our life-changing American Faro pick six score, JK. And I remember kissing you right on the head.
I don't remember the ticket part, but I do remember the kiss, Pete. How could I forget that?
Tremendous. Well, I like that idea. Being organized, definitely a resolution. My wife would certainly agree, JK, that I should be making every year. So there's that. Before we go, a couple of little points to follow up from previous shows. All right, the PTF Sportsbook had put up the 4-5 line that you would not make it through 21 days without eating ice cream. Do I have to pay these people, or did you come through for me and bail on it?
I made it.
Oh, darn it.
I made it. I did. I made it 24 days, and then I went back-to-back ice cream, and then I kind of grabbed again. So I made well, I felt like I deserved it after I worked so hard. But
at the same time, you don't want to undo all the good.
No, but part of it is just reminding yourself that you can do it. I always encourage people, if there's something that you feel like you do too much, then just show yourself you cannot do it for 21 days, and you'll feel much better about it.
It'll make you just I don't mean to rain. I don't want to rain on your parade here, but there are meetings for people who have problems with addictions, and they would tell you. And I know this because I have many people I love who've been to these meetings. So not me personally, not yet anyway. But they will tell you that the ability to do it cold turkey doesn't really prove anything. It's the ability. If you can't do it in moderation, that's when you have a problem. If every time you do it, every time you bust open that ice cream, you're eating the whole pint, that's when you have the problem. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not trying to be a jerk.
No, I'm with you. But here's the thing. If you go 21 days not doing it, I think what it does is it teaches you that like you don't have to do it the way you're doing it. Like it doesn't. It's like you're gonna be okay. Like for instance, when I get in bed and I'm watching Jimmy Fallon, like that's when I want to grab the ice cream. And if I go 21 days not doing it, then once it's over and I'm sitting in bed and Jimmy Fallon's on, I realize like it's gonna be okay if you skip it tonight. It's like it's not your life is not gonna be any worse if you skip it. And so like I can do that. And I've done that with racing before too, like where I just had to take a break. And you realize when you're taking a break, like that pick four you thought you had to bet, you were gonna lose that damn thing anyways. So it's like it's you kind of learn that you don't have to do it when you take a break. And so that's why I did it, just to remind myself I could do it. Also shocks the body back into like you're not gonna have ice cream every night. So it worked itself out.
All right, I like it. And then the last bit, we have to finally give away this book. Gosh, I feel remiss that we haven't done it sooner. We had asked people to leave reviews on iTunes. We still want you to leave those reviews on iTunes. So easy to do, especially if you have an iPhone. You can do it right through the native podcast app on there and say something nice about us, hopefully. And we encourage you to do that. But for the people who've done it so far, we had promised to give away a copy of Mike Maloney's new book, Betting with an Edge. If you're not the person who won, you can still purchase the book, DRF store, or hit me up for a signed one, podcast@drf.com or @loomsboldly. JK, we conferred over this for a long time. I'm happy with the one we came up with. Do you want to read it and let the person know?
Yeah, there are some good ones. I do want to say Chris Hutz was good. Our friend Scott Calder, Ivan Stacy, Rodney Clements, Brad Heel were all good. But ultimately, we went with Tommy Seafeld. I thought that his kind of outlined what the show is the most. And here it is. Getting into the podcast about a year and a half ago was a single most important factor in me becoming more interested and involved with racing. I now follow racing just as close as other sports like golf and baseball. PTF and JK are awesome. He's sure right about that. And they do a great job of interacting with their listeners and Twitter followers. The show is just so great for people trying to learn more about racing and people trying to become more informed bettors and just learn more about the entire industry as a whole. As a young person, 25, it is hard to find people who are as interested in the game as I am. And this podcast is a great way to stay informed and keep learning.
What a nice comment from Tommy, who we've interacted with on Twitter. Props to him. Tommy, get in touch or I'll holler at you on Twitter and we'll get that Mike Maloney book out to you. Also, as a 25-year-old, check out the Nexus Racing Club. You mentioned a couple other names here. People I'll send out a holiday wish to. Rodney, who you mentioned, sent me actually a really nice note, like Christmas card style. Want to thank him for that. I should write him back, and hopefully I will, but I know he's a loyal listener, so maybe he'll hear this. Also, it's Brad Heil, who hung out with us muchly at the Paddock Bar this summer, and also thanks to Brad for his ongoing support, and to everybody who listens to the show, which we're now out of time for, JK, unless you got anything else real quick.
No, I'm excited. I didn't tell you this, PTF. It's a new I'm going to go see our buddy Scott Calder tomorrow morning.
Oh, beautiful.
And he told me that the Pharaoh is coming back from Australia tonight, so I'll be
nice.
there. I'll be there to see him. I'm just coming to check on him.
Tell him I said hello. Tell him I said hello. We always enjoy seeing him, and see if you can get him to give some more media training to his handler Calder down there.
Scott told me, he said, yeah. Hashtag the real people's champ.
Scott is wonderful. It's hard to mock him even when I'm clearly being sarcastic. But as we know at this point, when I mock people on this show, everyone just assumes I'm serious, as Brent Sumter proved. All right, out of time. That's it. For Jonathan Kinchin, I'm Peter Thomas Fornatel. Thanks to all of you for listening. We will be back on Friday. May you win all your photos.